Now in Learning Objective B, we're going to use law of cosines, and this time I'm going to show you how to solve when you have to find the angle. So we have to find all the missing angles, so just pick the one that you want to do. Why don't we go ahead and first look at angle Z. So as the formula worked, remember that in the format, the side we started with corresponded with the same angle at the end. So because we're going to find an angle this time, if we're choosing to find angle Z, what I'm going to do is put angle Z here. So because I'm choosing to use angle Z, what I'm going to put here is going to be side length Z. So let's go ahead and rewrite the formula we want. We want to have Z squared because I want to end it with the cosine of Z. And then I just fill in the formula with the other two letters, in this case x and y. So it'll be x squared plus y squared minus 2 times xy times the cosine of Z. So let's associate again. The 3 goes with the Z, the y is the 7, the x is the 9. Let's fill in the information. Z is 3, x is the 9, again y is 7. Then we're going to do minus 2 times those two numbers. And this time we don't know the cosine of Z, so we keep this with the variable. And then we just go ahead and simplify. So 3 squared is 9. This is going to be 81 plus 49. 7 times 9 is 63, times 2 is going to be 126. Now I'm going to actually bring these two together first, and we're going to get this part of the formula. Now be very careful. What you're going to be tempted to do is to do 130 minus 126. You can't do that, and let me show you why. Let's say this was just basic algebra instead of the cosine of Z there. What if we had an x there instead of the cosine of Z? In this equation right here, you would never combine these two. What you would do first to get x by itself is you'd have to move the 130 and then the negative 126. So if this were the case, you would subtract the 130 from both sides, and you would get the negative 121. And then to get x by itself, you would divide by the negative 126. So that's what we're going to have to do in this case, just like we would back in the algebra world. So the first thing I have to make sure to do is to keep this together as one term. I'm going to move the 130 by subtracting 130 from both sides. Gives me a negative 121. Leaves me with this on the right. To get cosine of Z by itself, I need to get rid of the multiplying by negative 126, and I divide by negative 126. So that's going to leave me with the cosine of Z is equal to 0.96. Now remember from section 5.1 we talked about how do you solve for the variable when it's inside the word if it says cosine. In this case what we're going to do is remember we're going to find the measure of angle Z is equal to the inverse cosine of the number that we found. When you do that, you're going to end up getting that angle Z is going to be 16.2 degrees. So let's continue on to the next slide and find one of the other two missing angles. Now since we already found angle Z, let's fill that in. That was 16.2 degrees. So that means we're going to find x or y next. I'm just going to go ahead and let's find angle x. So I'm going to just set up the formula. So since I'm finding angle x, let's do that. The cosine of x means I have to start the equation with the side length x. Then I'll fill in with the other two sides. So y squared plus z squared minus 2 times yz. Let's fill in the numbers and see what we get as our final answer. So 9 squared, remember the y goes with the 7, and then the z is the 3. So 2 times those two side lengths, and keep the cosine as x. This is going to be 81. I'm going to go ahead right now and bring together, this would be 49 and 9. So I'm going to write that as 58. And I'm going to do 7 times 3 times 2, which would be 42. Now the only next step we can do, remember, do not bring these together. You're going to want to if you're going too fast. You have to subtract the 58 from both sides. When you do that, you're going to end up getting 23 equals negative 42, the cosine of x. To get cosine of x by itself, divide by negative 42. We're going to have the cosine of x is going to be equal to negative 0.5476. Now we need to get the angle out of the word cosine. So again, the measurement of angle x is going to be equal to the cosine negative 1, or inverse cosine of this particular value. And that's going to give us 123.2 degrees. Now, I could go ahead and do the law of cosines a third time to find angle y, but I'm not going to. I already know that one angle is 123.2, the other is 16.2. So to find that third angle, we'll just do the measurement of angle y is 180 minus the two values we already found. And when you do that, you're going to get that angle y. It's going to be 40.6 degrees. Let's look at one more problem dealing with angles. Here they've drawn for us triangle ABC with side lengths 5.3, 6, and 8. They want to find the measure of the largest angle. Remember, we already talked about the largest angle will always be across from the largest side, so it's here with the 8. So what they want us to find is angle C. So if we set up the formula again, it's the cosine of C is the one we have to find. So we're going to start with C squared, and then let's just use A squared plus B squared minus 2 times the AB. Make sure you match up your sides. This is angle A, and that's side A. And then for the B, angle B and side B are across from each other. So let's fill it in. We're going to have 8 squared equals 5.3 squared plus 6 squared minus 2 times those two values, and then the cosine of angle C. That's going to give us this work right here. So I simplified all the squarings in multiplication. Next I brought these two numbers here together. Now remember to solve, don't bring these together. Let's subtract the 64.09 from both sides. That's going to leave us with a negative 0.09 equals a negative 63.6, the cosine of C. We'll divide by that negative value. So the question is, the cosine of C equals, this actually becomes a positive value because the two negatives cancel. And I'm just going to keep it like this now. So to find the measure of angle C, I'm going to do the inverse cosine, or cosine negative 1, and I'm just going to type in what I see here. When you do that, what you're going to get is the measure of angle C. It's going to be about 89.9 degrees. So this is actually very close to being a right triangle, but it is not a right triangle. Therefore, you cannot use SOHCAHTOA. We did have to use law of cosines.